Welcome to WAMD, the We Are Motor Driven podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to WAMD. We are Motor Driven, the podcast about all things automotive, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, automotive advertising. Welcome back. It has been a while since we've all been around the table, but I'm Harvey Briggs, and I am the editor-publisher of Rides and Drives, and I'm here with...
Brendan Appel.
Paul Harold.
And they're from the Sons of Speed. They are the Sons of Speed.
Yes, we are.
And I am Jennifer Jensen with Auto Exotica and the Media. And it's nice to be back at the table with everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So automotive advertising is something I have a lot of experience with. First 10 years of my career were spent in Detroit at agencies doing ads, first for Pontiac, then Ford, and then Chevrolet. So I have a little bit of knowledge in
Just a
this.
tad.
Just a little bit, yes.
But I would love to hear what you guys think about the state of automotive advertising today and what you like and don't like about what's going on.
Well, it's funny when you say that you have experience with automotive advertising because if you read any magazine, if you watch any TV, we all have experience with automotive
Or
advertising.
past any billboard or,
Billboards
or
on the
bench in
street.
a park or anywhere, yes.
Okay, I have experience creating
There we
automotive
go.
advertising.
It's a whole different world, Harvey. It's a whole different
Well,
world.
it's funny you should ask us about the state of advertising because up until about 3 days ago, I would have said automotive advertising has just been kind of lame and boring lately. But then,
And then
Jennifer,
Stellantis came out with an ad.
Why don't you tell us about that Stellantis ad, Jennifer?
So there's an ad out that came out maybe a week or two ago, at least at our recording date today. And it's for the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Basically, they call it the Shag and Wagon. I think they call it the Shagoneer at the end. The whole thing is about like how this is a vehicle to make families in.
Yeah. Not only drive families in,
it's
to make families in.
Well, that's because Jalopnik named it the best car to have sex in an
Okay,
article.
but is that real? Like, did they
Yes,
really do that?
that was a real article.
Okay, so I didn't know that.
The people at Stellantis, being smart marketers, said, here's an opportunity to create an ad that will get people talking.
And who's the
Well, yeah.
comedian that they have? I can't remember her
what's
name.
her name?
Celia,
Eliza? Is it Eliza? something?
Eliza, that's
Yeah.
it, yeah.
She's really good in that. The ad is hilariously just on the nose. It's so funny, but it's also just kind of like you're almost cringing, but you're not quite cringing. But no one will forget, the new nickname of the Shagoneer.
It's
And
the first ad that I actually sent to people.
right in a long time.
In a long time.
Now, I've only seen the long version, 2.5 minutes
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that the only one out there?
It's the only one I've seen as well.
Yeah, I can't. I'm just curious.
How are
if
they going to
have
get that
the
down to 30
cojones-
seconds?
Yeah,
To put it on like broadcast
cojones
there.
to put it on broadcast.
If that's not a Super Bowl ad,
Yeah, I
at
was going to
some
say,
point,
Super Bowl is going to happen.
It's got to be there. The closest ad to this one, and I still can't believe this is actually a real ad, but it was a print ad for Aston Martin certified used cars, and I part of me still thinks it's like a parody, but it's this beautiful scantily clad, almost no clad woman, kind of just like leaning over like a bar in a house, and it says, you're not the first one, but does it really matter?
Oh,
And
yeah. I remember that one. That was a
Oh my
great
God.
ad.
Oh my
That
God.
was a
Have I
great
not seen that ad?
Oh my God, look it up. It was awesome.
I mean, there is
Yeah, she
a
is
long,
smoking hot too.
long history of sex in car advertising. Of course, using sex to sell cars. I mean, going all the way back. Actually, there's an ad on my wall for Briggs Manufacturing, which
Okay.
was my great-grandfather's company. And it's this drawing, because there weren't photographs back in the 20s,
Right.
or there were, but not for advertising, of a Briggs car body and a beautiful woman next to the car, in sort of that 20s flapper style. And it's all about the beauty of the body work.
Right.
You know, for when you have your next car, you'll want it to have a Briggs body.
Right.
So, you know, sex has always been a part of advertising, whether it's,
for sure.
you know, beautiful models involved or
Right.
innuendo, that happens a lot. And I know a lot of times when we were, you know, in our creative sessions trying to come up with ads, there would always be a lot of sexually oriented ads that you come up with and you go, yeah, we can't say that.
We can't do that. That's a little too far over the line.
Yeah.
And that's changed too over the years. You know, I'm guessing this ad for Aston Martin was probably a 60s or 70s ad.
No, it was
no,
more
no.
like a 2000s
Yeah.
ad.
Was it really?
Late 90s or early 2000s?
Yeah.
I don't remember the date.
Really?
I can look it up. But
Yeah,
That's a little surprising
It's
to
a
me.
little surprising because I think we did hit a period between 2000 and like 2 months or maybe 2 weeks ago where like we really, I mean, you know, comedy kind of, there's a theory that all comedy kind of died in 2007 and everything just sort of went to this place of everyone's offended by everything.
Yeah,
Right? And
I was
so you
gonna
can't
say,
be funny anymore.
the last 20 years, ads have really changed.
Right.
Because again, everyone's offended.
And this is in all culture. So advertising would be included in there as well. And I think there's a sort of a pendulum shift back the other way now where somebody like Stellantis can come out with this ad and nobody's, you know, there probably are certain pockets of the culture still maybe cringing at it, but by and large, it's been accepted as this is okay again.
It's comedy. It's
Yeah,
meant to be
and
humorous.
especially if you're a challenger brand, you know, like
Right.
Jeep or you know, some of the brands that aren't that are fighting for their place at the table, and Stellantis brands certainly are right now.
Yes, they are.
you
Why
know.
don't you talk a little bit about how, you know, where you are in the market sort of dictates what kind of advertising philosophy you have.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I started in this business, GM and Chevrolet were huge companies, you know, had significant market share. And now, you know, what does Toyota have? Maybe 15% market share?
And it's huge comparatively speaking.
To like you look at
Exactly.
someone like Subaru that has 4% market share.
Right.
Well,
Or Mazda.
Or Mazda. Now what you can do as a brand like that, you go, okay, who loves me the most, right? Who really drives my cars? That's who I'm going to create my messaging for. We used to talk about this in the advertising business as a brand target, right? You picture in
Right.
your head who is behind the wheel of my product.
So, for example, you mentioned Subaru.
Right.
Dog people.
Yeah, dog people,
Outdoor people, dog
a lot
people.
of flannel.
Yep.
You know, they like to camp, do all this stuff.
Right.
And that's who you have in mind as a brand target, and you create advertising for that person. And then people, they may be that person or not overtly, but they may have that image of themselves
Right.
in their head.
Yeah,
Right.
even if they're not going outside
Right.
and putting kayaks on their roofs,
Right.
the fact that they can do it is sort of like this subliminal pull for them.
Right.
Like it's the same thing with sports cars. I mean,
Yeah.
is everyone who buys a sports car going to take it to a racetrack and do a track day? No. But do they like the fact that they say, I could do that?
Or should they do that?
Well, they should do that. Of course you should do that.
Yes, they should.
They should do that. Unfortunately, they choose to do it on the streets sometimes, and then they end up wrapping their new, whatever
that just
around a
makes
tree.
a whole new segment of videos on YouTube that are fun to watch too, right?
That's a whole different kind of advertising
Just
right
think
there.
of all of the fun we have had over the years doing that. Yes, that's the ad right there. Harvey
it.
found the.
Got it.
The Jaguar ad.
Yes.
No,
I mean,
Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, yeah.
Oh,
What, is
and
it
what is the
created?
tagline? Did I get it right? Because I was doing it from memory.
You know you're not the first, but do you really care? You were right.
You were
See, that-
What an impact that,
That
ad
was
had.
an incredibly memorable ad. But,
Yes.
you know, because it tapped into something deep inside your soul, apparently.
And now we know about Brendan.
We don't. It's like too dark
No,
down
and you know, the best ads are
They
whether
stir up
it's
emotions.
they stir up emotions and they tap into almost that psychological deep-seated
Yeah.
need, like those archetypes. I don't know if you've ever read Joseph Conrad and some of his work around archetypes, but everyone has their own sense of self and who they are, and
Right.
whether it's the ruler or the common man or the hero or whatever. And there was a book written years ago called The Hero and the Outlaw, and it's all about using archetypes to help define brands.
I will tell you a very good example of that. Do you remember the 90, I think it was 93, 94, 95 Caprice SS?
Yeah.
Okay, it came in mostly black. And they had a maroon one, which they should have never made. It was just, they looked great in black, right? And there was a print ad in every car magazine. And I saw a giant one over, like it's some like mechanic shop once. It was awesome. If I could find it, I'd put it in my garage. It was a very backlit, dark picture of the SS Caprice. And the tagline just said, Lord Vader.
Oh, yes.
Your car
I
is
remember this
ready.
ad.
Yeah, and it's all about positioning that car as something dark and mysterious, and
Yes.
that's what
And
Dodge
powerful.
did when they came back, with Hemi, and they went, years ago when Dodge kind of positioned itself as, we're going to be the bad boy, we're going to be the Hemi car, we're going to be the not mainstream car company. And so you saw their advertising, for the first time showing smoking tires
burnouts,
and
yeah.
things like that. We weren't allowed to show. It's network standards and practices. Literally, I shot a commercial and there was a scene in which a woman was behind the wheel eating an apple. And they said, take that scene out of the car. That's danger. Out of the commercial. That's dangerous.
Wow.
You cannot show someone driving
While eating.
Wow.
And yet we have drive-through.
Yeah. And this was the same network that aired Dukes of Hazzard.
Right.
So,
Right. You can
Yeah.
jump a car, you just
Yeah.
can't eat while
You
driving.
can't eat while jumping.
While jumping your car. You might choke.
You might.
So,
You
it was-
very well could.
It was just funny,
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
But so you look at advertising now, it all just feels so safe, though, and I think that was driven a lot by what we saw was a real backlash against humor, things
Right.
like that. So. Very, Super Bowl's the only place where people take chances, it feels like, anymore. And even then, the jokes feel pretty tame. I mean, the VW Darth Vader one was a great ad with the kid.
The kid with the Force. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
With
How
the
about the
Force ad.
Nissan Pigeon one? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Dive
Yeah.
bombing
Yeah.
that was such a, again, it's mundane comedy,
Right.
But a very memorable and fun ad, and that I think is what, as a consumer of ads,
Right.
I don't make ads, but I want the ad to entertain me. I want it to be fun, or like you said, like hit a nerve where
Right.
you got some archetypal connection, and it just stays with you because you have the opportunity when, and maybe you experienced this. I mean, you worked in the industry, you tell us, but if I'm working on an advertisement, I want to have fun. Like I should have fun. So you can have fun. And then you'll remember my advertisement, which will make you remember the vehicle and maybe want it or at least be interested in it.
Yeah, emotion was always a big part of it. It was make me laugh, make me think, or make me cry.
Exactly.
Remember the Joe Isuzu commercials?
Oh, yeah.
I think it was David Leisure was the actor. He did great. You know? It's like they would put one on top of like this cliff. It's like a mild drop on both sides. Like I drove it up here myself.
The liar campaign.
That was hilarious.
They go to, like, Monument
and you
Valley.
remembered it,
Right.
Like who didn't remember it? We were talking about it when I was, we were in high school talking about it then, and it was so funny.
The problem with a campaign like that is when the product doesn't live up to the promise of the campaign. I'll point out a great example of this was the Chrysler 200. The Super Bowl spot with Eminem, unbelievably great commercial. And a whole bunch of people ran to Chrysler dealerships to look at the 200 and they went, no.
What was the tagline?
It was
Imported from Detroit.
Imported from Detroit.
I remember that.
And it was a really nice spot and a great campaign, but the 200 was, not a competitive car in the category. It wasn't what people wanted. It didn't, the campaign itself was cool and
it was.
Fun, and the car was boring.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, look, advertising can only do so much.
Right.
You can advertise the heck out of New Coke
Yeah.
that they did in the 80s, and it's you tasted it and you're like, "Bleh," get this out of my mouth.
Remember
And
Zima?
that was our thing. Our job was to get people into dealerships.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah.
As an
Right.
advertising copywriter, the only thing I could do was write a headline that would make you go, oh, that's cool. Maybe I should go look at that. Put it on the list.
Yeah.
Right.
You could only do so much.
I can't.
And the
get-
agency
Right.
that
Close the
did,
sale.
imported
You're
from
the lead
Detroit,
generator.
Right.
Did that.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And,
The
and
imported from Detroit ad did that.
it did
It
that.
created
But
the
when
foot
they got
traffic.
into the showroom, they saw the 200 and they went, I'll go get a Camry if I want a boring car because I know that one will last.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, conversely, at the time, I think it was FCA, Chrysler, did hit a home run with when they did, like you were talking about earlier, when they brought the Hemi back, was getting John Reap to do the line, hey, that thing got a Hemi, and oh my God, did that blow up?
Yeah.
Because, and then people went in, oh yeah, it does have a Hemi. Oh, it does sound like American Muscle. Oh, it's pretty quick. And it's in a lot of cool cars like the Magnum at the time and the Charger and even the 300. And, you could get SRT versions of these things. So that's the opposite, where the advertising matched what the experience was. And then they sold a crap ton of these vehicles for 16 years?
Yeah.
Well, it was funny is they sold a crap ton of the V6s as well.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Because people came in wanting the V8, saw the price tag, but settled for the V6.
Right.
Right.
And then they put a 392 badge on there.
Exactly. It made it cool.
Yeah.
But does it got a Hemi? Does that have a Hemi? That actually almost was intrinsic in this country, at least, like the "What's Up" from Budweiser commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you'd call it "What's up," that whole thing.
Yeah.
And got a Hemi. It became part of vernacular.
Oh, yeah.
Like
That
the
ad was
6.7 is now.
Or not a car
Go
ad.
there.
Right.
Hey, if you were in a Rolls Royce, what do you ask somebody in a Rolls
Do you have any
Royce?
Grey Poupon?
You have any Grey Poupon?
Still to this day. And
We did a
99%
review. We did a
of the
video
people in
on
this
that. It was
country
hilarious.
never saw that commercial. But,
Right. Yeah.
Pardon me,
still-
sir. Do you have any Grey Poupon?
But of course.
And that's the
Yeah.
response. And there's even a retort.
Or people might jump out with baseball bats, which happened in our review, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, another home run for Super Bowl commercials was the Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio, not the Stelvio, the Giulia.
The Giulia.
Yeah, remember that they had a 30-second long racing ad where they just raced that car down a back road. The internet hits went up 10,000%. Like the next day on Alfa Romeo.
Well, we know what sells in cars. We know sex sells.
Yeah.
And from that ad, we know speed sells.
Yep, speed and power. Yep.
What else, from an insider's perspective, what were you trying to do to
get that foot traffic.
Right, to get
Yeah.
to make a hit advertisement.
And comedy too. Let's not forget that.
Well, yeah, comedy does work.
comedy does. Well, one of the campaigns that I worked on, I was lucky enough to be in the room when it happened, was the Heartbeat of America.
Yeah, that's a
for
good
Chevrolet.
tagline.
And it was just a great tagline that captured, the zeitgeist of the brand in a way that was honest, right? It wasn't like trying to promise that Chevrolet is some great whatever. And then the story behind the campaign, the whole thing is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Well, do tell Harvey.
First of all, the line was written by a guy named Jerry Burton, who was working on Chevrolet Motorsports at the time, and he penned the Heartbeat of America as a favor to, I think it was Rick Hendrick and his teams.
Oh, Hendrick.
Right? And so it was on the side of the Hendrick hauler, Chevrolet, the Heartbeat of America.
For those who don't know, do you know a little bit about Hendrick and his dealership?
He has a ton of dealerships, but he's also, runs one of the most successful NASCAR teams of all time. And so, the thing got put on the side of the hauler. It shows up at Daytona. And the head of the general manager of Chevrolet is down at Daytona for the race and looks at the hauler and goes, "That's our new tagline."
Yeah.
Right? And says that captures Chevrolet perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about it is the creative director, executive creative director who didn't write that line is kind of like, "No, it's not."
Because he didn't
Because
write
I
it.
didn't write it, or whatever. And so there was this whole internal thing for about 6 months while
Oh my gosh.
we were trying to beat the Heartbeat of America.
Yeah.
Right? Because this guy didn't want it. And we couldn't. It was too good, right?
Yeah.
And then when it was decided this was the campaign, we took the line, wrote the lyrics, and then went to about 30 different music houses around the country and said, give us demos of this, because we knew it was going to be big. So we had to have the right piece of music that was going to last forever, right? And so we got these demos back from all these different music houses, and we're all listening, and which one, and the one that won, the song that everybody, has heard for what, it was close to a decade,
At
right?
least.
Was just it was actually a music house in New York that did a great job, produced this thing, and then we riffed on it from there for years and years. So it was just a phenomenal campaign. And, it was a great line that stuck with people.
For
and
sure.
it covered the entire brand, right? It worked for trucks, it worked for cars, it worked for sports cars.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest thing to do in advertising, is to come up with a campaign. It's really easy to come up with that one-off, like the Shaggin' Wagon thing.
Right.
Oh, here's a funny, best car to have sex in. I can write a great ad for that. Now, can you turn that into a campaign?
For the entire brand.
For the entire brand? Probably not. There's something in that humor that is very specific to that. So
you mentioned music, and that's another, I think, hook, because the other thing Chevrolet did with the Silverado is get with Bob Seger's, Like a Rock song, and turn that into, I think, a very powerful ad for, I'm pretty sure it was the Silverado, right?
Yeah, it was Silverado. It was all Chevy trucks too. And it was really funny, actually. Again, another story about the creation of that. The year before, we had taken the, what his artist's name, but Lean on Me, Bill Withers' song.
Bill Withers,
Lean on Me when you're not drunk.
Yep.
That
I
was
remember that
the
ad.
year before the Like a Rock came out,
Okay.
because we were shooting a truck commercial, and the producer noticed that every time we called cut, every actor would just lean on the truck, right? And so someone said, "Oh, lean on me," and so we
Oh my
took that
gosh.
song. The writer and art director on that one took that song. They put it on the did a demo version of it with all this footage we had, from that wasn't supposed to be
Right,
captured.
just people leaning on
right?
trucks.
And cut a demo of it, and the client was like, "That's great." And so that ran for about a year, and then they're like, "Yeah, but we need something bigger than that." And that's when Like a Rock happened, and it built on that whole. Like a Rock worked because it was all about that idea of dependability.
Yeah.
Strength.
And dependability.
Right.
Man,
And
did that
that's what-
ever come through.
That's what trucks are all about.
Right.
So it was a great metaphor.
Yep.
Right. And so that campaign, that was a brilliant campaign by a couple of the guys at the agency. It was really fun to see that one.
Now, one of the brands that you worked on was Pontiac.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite brands of all time.
Build Excitement.
Yo.
Yeah, I was there in the early 80s for the We Build Excitement campaign.
Oh, that is such a
And,
great tagline.
I was a junior copywriter, and had, I was given the scraps to try to work on. But it was a good place
Sell
to
this T1000.
Yeah, the T1000, the J2000. One of the dumbest things I ever saw happen in advertising was a commercial for the J2000 that the creative director of the agency came up with, and he thought it was great. And he took the Beach Boys song "Fun, Fun, Fun" and rewrote the lyrics to the Pontiac J.
No. It's
Which
about
is
a
like,
T-bird.
it's about a T-bird.
That's
So,
her-
I mean,
yeah.
everything about this was wrong. And it's like, I knew in my soul somewhere,
Right.
even though I didn't know anything about advertising at the time, that this was a dumb campaign. So I knew the people at this agent, and I was doing a lot of reading at the time. I graduated from college, didn't know anything about advertising, lucked into a job, then went to the library at the agency and started reading books by Ogilvy and all these other famous ad guys, and realized nobody here is doing any of this. And so I got a chance to go to J. Walter Thompson and work at Ford. And so like 9 months after I got my first job, I jumped and went to J. Walter Thompson, worked on Ford, and worked with a bunch of really good people who taught me how to write an ad.
Nice.
And then I summarily got my ass fired from there for arguing with the creative director about the Ford Taurus launch campaign.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. So
What did you want to do differently?
I wanted to do a campaign that was all about the details of the car that made it world class. And he wanted to do the campaign that eventually launched, which was Taurus for Us.
Okay.
You know, which would be a memorable hook line.
I until you
For
said it.
us.
Yeah,
No,
I did
didn't
Remember
remember
the
it.
Ford Taurus is,
So I think we vindicated
so
Harvey. That was
Yeah,
not
I-
a memorable tagline.
I have no recollection of that.
I don't
Senator.
know if I'm vindicated or not, but the campaign we did, my art director, partner, and I, we did this whole print campaign. It was all about cool details that we learned when we went and interviewed all the engineers. Things like, one ad would be a picture of the assembly facility, right? And it's like, well, when we designed the new Ford Taurus, this is the first component we built. And it was like we had to build a whole new factory so we could build this the right way.
Yep.
How can we call the Ford Taurus all new? These are the only parts we had in stock when we designed the car, and it was 4 bolts.
Wow.
Things like that. It was just all about how the extremes they went to create this new car, because the car was pretty radical looking
was,
at
yeah.
the time.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah.
my ad campaign for that would have just focused on the RoboCop aspect and just said the future is
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, 'cause
and
that
I
was
would
the
have
car
just played up
they-
the futuristic aspect, because that car did look futuristic.
It really
did.
when it came out.
They made them all black and put them in the movie. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's advertising. It's all opinion.
Yep.
They talk about research, and you go and you do consumer focus groups and the rest of it. And
To get that brand you were talking about earlier. That sort of psyche.
Yeah. But what happens is it's really about whose opinion it matters most
I've
in the
always
room.
thought that consumer research to drive marketing or decide it almost seems it's counterintuitive, and it shouldn't. In other words, you could probably test your advertising against a consumer model group and say, okay, what do you think about this? But it should never. That destroys the creative process. I want to see creative ads that. You don't care what sort of like a focus group thinks. You might test it against it to see, like, okay, do you like this version or this version better? But let your creativity show through. That makes advertising memorable.
Yeah, that's the stuff that to me that works the best, and that's what we're losing now more and more as you see more programmatic advertising.
Right.
You see AI getting involved now in writing ads, all kinds of stuff that's that's changing the business. Also, and this is just purely a function of the world we live in now. When I'm old, so when I started in this business, I wrote on a typewriter. FedEx did not exist. We had fax machines if we needed to move information quickly. You had time. You had
Right.
time to think. It was like, okay, we're going to create a campaign for, say Chevrolet Celebrity. That was one of the campaigns I worked on, right? Well, you would spend 2, 3, 4 weeks just coming up with ideas, right? And then you'd sit down, the art director would sit down and draw,
Right.
on a board and, all this stuff. And you'd look at it and you'd take your time and you'd think about it and you'd dig concepts on paper with a big fat marker and all this great stuff that was really visceral, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, it's part of the process.
it was
too.
all part of the process. And then it would get better as you went along because,
right.
okay, we'd have an art director do the design. Then you'd go to a typesetter who would look at the type and figure out how to make it look great. And then you'd go to a photographer who would interpret the drawing the art director did. And they'd bring their expertise into it, or a film director who would bring their. So every it was a really fluid creative process all the way. And now it's like, I can do everything in 30 minutes on my computer.
Or worse, type it into an AI prompt.
Yeah. And, it's different now. And I mean, God,
Do you think it lost its luster?
I think a lot of advertising has lost its luster because a lot of advertising now is the crap we see on the web, the banner ads and all that kind of stuff, which a lot of people in the advertising
more annoying
business
than anything else.
Didn't get in the advertising business to do, I'm kind of glad I'm out of it, frankly. I loved the fact that I would go to work, grab a cup of coffee, light up a cigarette, start typing headlines or writing radio scripts or whatever. And then, that was, you worked on, I worked in 4 or 5, radio, TV, outdoor, print, and you'd come up with that and you'd create a campaign and then you'd go to lunch. It was very Mad Men.
I was just going to say the end of the Mad Men era.
I was very tail end of that in the early 80s.
Yep.
It was moving, but it was still an idea-driven industry, which was what I really liked about it, is we were always looking for that big idea that could carry a campaign, as opposed to
what's going to grab your attention for 30 seconds
on a banner.
What would you say your favorite ad that you worked on was?
That's a really good question. I did a launch campaign for Ford Thunderbird, which and the Thunderbird Turbo Coupe.
The TC.
That was, I wrote a print ad for that. It was a big spread that was going to go in all the buff books, right? So it was super cool, right? Nice. I'm 25 years
Testosterone.
old. and I work at Car Driver, so I was going to have,
your ad in Car
my
Driver.
ad in Car Driver, which was great. And it was also pressure because it's like, I want it to be, I want it to be true. Right, to what that was. And so Car and Driver had just done a review of the Turbo Coupe and compared it very favorably to the BMW 635 CSI.
Nice.
And so I wrote the ad. Now I can't even remember the headline of it. I'm so bad, but it was all about how the Turbo Coupe, how Car and Driver preferred it, and it was a long copy ad. It was here's a picture of the car and copy coming all around it and subheads, and it was just, I was really proud of it, and it did really well. And then the next year, or later that year, we did another campaign for Thunderbird with using words that described the feeling of driving it, right? And so the campaign was all just pictures of the car driving, flashing words on the screen, all this. And I did a print ad again, and the headline was just Thunder words. And the car, and in the background kind of was all these words that could have described the car from A to Z.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I told you I got fired from J. Walter Thompson. Well, this ad ran, and then it won Best Print Ad.
Really?
For J. Walter Thompson, for the whole global empire, right?
Wow.
I get this letter from the chairman, and the funniest thing was that letter was in my mailbox the day I got fired for arguing with the creative director. So in my portfolio, I have the letter saying I'm fired, and the letter saying congratulations, you've just won this award, and the ad right next to it.
That's hilarious. I mean, I'm sorry you got fired, but that's hilarious.
I got a job 2 days later at Campbell Ewald for a 50% increase in pay.
See?
He's not sorry he got fired.
I'm not sorry I got fired.
One door open.
It's so both of those ads were word intensive.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because one of the most impactful ads I've ever seen, Porsche 911 Turbo, kills bugs fast.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You guys remember that ad?
Right, direct to the point.
Kills bugs fast.
Oh, yeah. That was a great one.
Yeah.
I'm showing the table right now.
Yeah.
You can go look that one up. It's just the back end of an arena red.
3 words conveys everything that they
and
wanted
it's in
to
motion.
convey.
Kills bugs fast.
Yeah, and they had that whole campaign.
There's an
like
amusement
that.
park one.
Right. There were all these super simple headlines
for about
with
2
just
years.
Super dramatic shots.
I actually have
of
a
the car.
poster of that because that was so impactful to me.
How about the one-word ad that it wasn't a real word that Volkswagen came up with?
Farfennugan.
That they ran with for years.
Yeah, and then
Still running with. There's T-shirts that still have that in their shop.
It is hilarious that
Yeah.
and it worked.
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about Super Bowl ads earlier. we've had in an earlier podcast, we talked about some Super Bowl ads like the G.I. Joe Barbie one for the Nissan 300Z and things like that. But the 2005-2006 Ford GT, there was a commercial that ran once during the Super Bowl, never aired again. It was called The One. And all it is a Ford GT flying around a racetrack with a little bit of voiceover talking about the power of that car.
Yeah.
And at the end it says, it's the one. If you've never seen
Powerful.
that ad, find it. It is one of the baddest ass ads you will ever see for a sports car.
Yeah.
Ran once.
Yeah. It made a statement and they dropped the mic.
Seriously, dropped and walked out of the room. Boom.
Yeah. So what's everyone's favorite ads that they've seen? I know I just asked you, Harvey, which one you worked on, but let's start with you. What's the favorite ad maybe that you had something to do with or you didn't, but you just really loved it?
My favorite ad I ever saw was written by a good friend of mine named Mike Stocker. It was a TV commercial for Jeep, and it was called Snow Covered. And all it was this pristine Alaskan landscape, snow. And all of a sudden you see this like burro under the snow driving. And it stops at this little stop sign just above that's, the top of the stop sign is just above the snow. And then that line came on. You saw a blinker come on under the snow and the car turn to the right and go off screen. But you never saw the car. It was always under the snow. And then the line came up that just said, only in a Jeep.
Yep.
And the spot was called Snow Covered. It won all kinds of awards. And it was one of the first car TV spots that never showed the car.
But you
amazing, knew exactly what they were talking about.
Amazing ad. That I remember that ad and that tagline, by the way. It was one of the best ever.
Well, and it spoke to what we talked about earlier is I may never do that, but if I want to, that's the one I can do it in. I can only do that in a Jeep.
Yeah. Great ad. What about you, Paul?
Two of them come to mind. It's funny. It's like you put me on the spot here, and I really can't think of like my favorite ad, but two of them that do come to mind are Honda's COG ad. What's that? The one where it was like all of the parts that make, was it an Accord, I think?
Yeah.
And they did that thing where like, what was that?
Rube Goldberg.
Yeah, Rube Goldberg, thank you. And they start with like pushing one little bearing, and it just went into this, and they did it all in one take. And like they had to do it like, I don't know, 1,000 times or something like that.
They probably used motion control technology and captured all this stuff.
Yeah, but that was so memorable, and it's unseen before. Like you never saw that before. Mm-hmm. So, and the other one that I love is it's a stupid ad, but it was just, I just laughed my butt off, was this guy, and I think they had to yank it off the air because it was one of those controversial, but this guy looked like a terrorist, gets into a Volkswagen.
Oh, yes!
And he's like wearing a suicide jacket, a bomb jacket, and
he pulls up in front of something.
Yeah, he pulls up in front of a store or something. Right. I don't know where it was, and it explodes, and nothing happens. Right. And it goes, Volkswagen built tough or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. I just saw that thing replayed again. It was that is hilarious.
And again, not the best ad in the world.
It didn't air here. It was a European.
It wasn't European. Okay, but it just was awesome.
Yeah, I remember I saw this like a month ago. Maybe someone had posted it, and it's just a hilarious ad. But yes, very not PC. Jennifer,
that's crazy, and really funny. And wow.
Yeah.
I still stick with that Barbie G.I. Joe 300Z ad. That thing was so good.
Yeah.
The one I just talked about, the one with the Ford GT, that's an amazing ad. I'm trying to remember, and maybe you guys can help me remember if this is an actual ad or not, because I did a post when I had my Shelby GT350. I was out hooning one day and got stuck at a train, right? And I did a video just revving the engine sitting at the train. And I'm pretty sure there was a commercial like that, where there's a sports car out and it gets stuck at a train and it says, "Even heaven has moments of hell."
Oh.
Was that a real thing, or was that what I
Don't
did?
remember it, but maybe
Because I think
yeah.
that's what I posted was that, and I just tried Googling it. I couldn't find anything. So, listeners, if that was an ad out there and not Jennifer being creative, please let me know. But if it was me, that was pretty creative.
Very cool. Well, my favorite ad of all time aired it in 1990 at the Super Bowl. It was directed and produced by Ridley Scott of Alien fame and many other movies. And it was for the Nissan 300ZX. And it was, I think it was called The Dream or something like that. And it was a guy recounting, I had this dream. I was in a 300ZX and I was being chased by this other car.
Yep.
And then they sent motorcycles, and then they sent a helicopter, and then they sent an airplane, and then the twin turbos kicked in. And it was just so awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
Powerful, very powerful.
it was very powerful, and man, it was like, oh yeah, because you could picture yourself, I'm running, and then the twin turbos kicked in, and you're just like, yes, it was, I don't know, there's something about that ad that still gets my juices flowing, and you used to own this car, and man, just what a fantastic
That was a really
culmination
good ad.
of so many things that just spoke well in that ad. And then again, I think that might have only just aired in the Super Bowl or very limited after
very
that.
limited.
But man, and then you had Ridley Scott doing it on top of it.
Exactly.
It's like someone just coming in being like, I don't know that he's done any other commercials, but he didn't need to. It was another mic drop moment for him. Like, I can do a commercial for a car, sure. Here it is.
Paul, you mentioned Honda. They had a really, really interesting ad that was also like a limited. I don't know if it was a Super Bowl ad or not. I don't remember. But it was basically, because Honda doesn't just make cars. They make motorcycles. They make airplanes. They make boats. They make all those different lawn equipment.
Yes.
And it was a guy at his house, right? And he drives his car to the lake and takes a boat, and then he flies in a Honda jet, and he goes to like this island, and he takes his little Honda motorcycle to his cabin and then mows the lawn with his Honda lawnmower. Like it's the whole depth and breadth of everything Honda makes.
Yeah.
And it was so creative
Yeah.
because it was like, this is everything we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it like stood out in my head like, dang, look at what
They could have had a robot butler at the very end. 'cause
Right, they
didn't
could
have one of
have,
those.
and that was just really, really neat. I only saw it like once or twice, but wow, was that a cool ad? Because it just like delivered, this is Honda. This is all that we do, That was really cool.
I would love to hear what the listeners, if they have any memorable ads that really stuck with them.
Hit us up.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Put them in the comments, and we'll link to some of these ads
we'll
that
have to
we've
definitely link
referenced
some
in
of
the
these ads,
comments.
because if you haven't seen them, you have to.
Yeah, they're
So
these are awesome.
if you're
Especially
listening
that
on
Volkswagen
another
one.
platform, go to the YouTube channel, and we'll have the ads linked there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with that,
This was fun, guys.
This was a
Thank
lot
you
of
for
fun.
indulging me in
Yes.
my old
Harvey,
stories.
these are great stories, and for those of you listening, the people at this table have some fantastic experiences and been in the industry for a long time. And what a joy for us to be able to sit here and share these stories for ad creation. So thank you, Harvey, for doing that. We hope you guys enjoyed listening to this episode. We're glad to be back at the table. And we're going to keep going here for weeks and weeks and weeks to come. So I am Jennifer with Auto Exotica and the Median, with our friends from Sons of Speed, Brendan and Paul, and Harvey from Rides and Drives. Thank you for listening to the WAMD We Are Motor Driven podcast. Make sure you go to wearemotordriven.com and on YouTube, /We Are Motor Driven, to watch us review cars, which is what we do, and write about cars and all things automotive. So until next time, we'll see ya.